Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Corner. I know it's been a while. I'm Art Regner for FoxSportsDetroit.com. And in this edition of the Sports Corner, we're going to talk about two Red Wings that are going to be inducted into hockey's Hall of Fame on Monday, the 11th of November. Chris Chelios and Brendan Shanahan. And I like to say this, that I think that both of these gentlemen are fine representatives to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I think they're outstanding men, and they were very, very good Red Wings. And I think the thing that's ironic is that both players, Shanny and Shelley, were both established superstars before they came to the Red Wings, yet becoming Red Wings, I think, added to the aura of their superstardom, if you will. So it was a good fit when both of those players were acquired by the Detroit Red Wings. On Saturday night, the Tampa Bay Lightning were in town, and former Red Wing great and general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Steve Yzerman, talked about Chelly and Brendan, and he essentially said that when Chris Chelios uh, when he had to play against Chris Chelios, that he was the most fierce competitor that he ever played against. That's what Yzerman said about Chelly. And then I guess about Brendan. And back then, when Brendan was acquired by the Red Wings in the 96-97 season, which turned out to be the season the Red Wings won the Cup, Steve Yzerman was teammates with Brendan Shanahan on Canada's World Cup team. And when he came back to Detroit, Yzerman had heard that Shanahan wanted out of Hartford and did go to Red Wing management and say, whatever we have to do, we have to get him. And then Steve reiterated on Saturday night that he thought that Brendan Shanahan was obviously the piece that got the Red Wings over the top as far as the long 42-year Stanley Cup drought that Detroit was experiencing before Shanny came. It's really interesting. People ask me all the time about different Red Wings because I know and I covered the team and I traveled with the team for years, and they say, what are these guys like? Well, I'll tell you that the day before the announcement was going to be made that who was going to be this year's inductee into the Hall of Fame, I called Chris Chelios to see if I could write a story for FoxSportsDetroit.com on him and get a comment because I knew that he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's the greatest American hockey player ever born, and I'm sitting, the sports quarters in Livonia, Michigan, which is the birthplace of Mike Modano, who some say might be the greatest American player ever, but in my book, it's Chris Chelios, Longevity Speaks. Anyway, Chelly calls me back, I didn't answer, and he had no idea that the announcement was going to take place. He was oblivious to it all. Pure classic Chris Chelios. He had no idea. Brendan Shanahan, on the other hand, the night before the announcement was going to be made, and Shanny should have been a first team or first ballot Hall of Famer last year, but he wasn't. Everyone assumed that this year he would get in, and he did. Brendan Shanahan called me the night before, and we were just sitting there talking about it, and he told me, and this is really, and Shanahan is sincere about this. I know Brendan gets knocked a lot because he's the discipline czar of the NHL right now. But he said he can't win because everybody thinks he favors the Red Wings. And then he said in the next breath, I would not be a Hall of Fame hockey player if I were not a Detroit Red Wing. I am a Detroit Red Wing. And I think that's all you really need to know about Brendan Shanahan. He was a team guy. Obviously, the March 26th fight where he took on first Patrick Waugh and Adam Foote. By the way, Patrick Waugh has always told Brendan that he was never the same player. He messed up his shoulder when they pirouetted at center ice on the 26th. So there's a lot of memories there. But Brendan Shanahan, really, the power forward of his generation, fought. He did everything, had a great shot, and he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm really, really happy for Brendan. And he was the type of guy, I think, that sometimes marched to his own drummer a little bit in the room, but the guys knew that when he was out on the ice, that he would get everything he had. Now, Chelios, on the other hand, uh, I hated him. I mean, I hated him. Even though we're both Greek, I hated him. And the reason I did was it went back to the last time that Chris Chelios won the Norris Trophy. Colorado had won the Cup that year, so it had to be, 96, I guess. And Chelly was asked about, hey, what do you think about the Avalanche winning the Cup? And Chris said, as long as it isn't Detroit, anybody but Detroit. And I said to myself, man, I can't stand this guy. I hate him. I was in Toronto covering that event. And so then once he gets to Detroit, you find out that he is, without question, one of the finest human beings around. He really, really is. He'll do anything for the team. He's ultra competitive, whatever it takes for the team to win. And sometimes that means maybe Chris not dressing or not getting as much ice time, especially towards the end of his Detroit career. But Chris Chelios came here to Detroit. He knew about Greektown, but I think he really settled in. He's raised his family here. He's working for the Red Wings, and even though they don't go into the Hall of Fame wearing a cap like they do in baseball, you're not affiliated with one team. You don't go in as one team, as a Red Wing or a Maple Leaf or whatever. I think that Brendan Shanahan would have gone in as a Red Wing, and I'm kind of sure that maybe Chris Chelios would have gone in as a Blackhawk. He's from Chicago. He was captain of that team. You know what? I don't have any problem with that because, Chris, you're a Detroiter, my friend. Might have been born in Chicago, but you have that Detroit soul. So there's a few memories I have of Brendan Shanahan and Chris Chelios, both of whom are going into the Hockey Hall of Fame. I know the Red Wings are going to send a contingent there. I'm really looking forward to the speeches. I know Brendan's will be top notch. Chelly's, I think he had to clear with the league, so gosh only knows what he's going to say. So once again, a couple of Red Wings Hall of Famers, Brendan Shanahan and Chris Chelios, very well deserved. So until we meet again into the sports corner, it is a safe haven for me, that's for sure. Have a safe and pleasant one. I'm Art Regner. We'll see you. Bye-bye.